The body mass index (BMI) of all American young women is believed to follow a normal distribution with standard deviation of about 7.5. How large a sample would be needed to estimate the mean BMI mu in this population to within plus or minus 1 with 99% confidence? Show your work. So we're given the population standard deviation, which is 7.5, and we're trying to find the interval that contains the population mean, right? But we're really not trying to find the interval. We're trying to find the size of the sample needed in order to construct this 99% interval, right? With a margin of error of maximum of 1, right? So this is an example of a 1 sample z interval for a population mean. And this is how we would construct the confidence interval. It would be the sample mean plus or minus the z, the critical value corresponding with that 99% confidence interval, times the population standard deviation over the square root of n, the number in the sample size. All right, so I'm going to make a little note here. Note, we use this interval for population mean when we know the population standard deviation, right? The population standard deviation. Okay, and when, so we obviously use this when the normal, and independent conditions are met. So that's when we use this one sample z interval, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is for the margin of error, we know it has to be between plus or minus 1. So the margin of error is going to be z star times the population standard deviation over the square root of n has to be less than or equal to the maximum margin of error. All right, so we have this 99% confidence interval for z. So remember, when we're dealing with a 99% confidence interval, this implies that z star must be equal to 2.575, right? We did that in a previous problem. So we have everything we need to fill out this inequality and solve for n, right? So we have 2.575 times 7.5 over the square root of n has to be less than or equal to 1. So first we can divide both sides by 2.575. So this will give us 7.5 over the square root of n is less than or equal to 1 over 2.575. Then we can take the inverse of both sides. So this will be the square root of n over 7.5. Has to be bigger than or equal to, right? We have to flip it. 2.575 over 1, which is just 2.575, right? Then we can multiply both sides by 7.5 to get, so let me put implies here, right? Implies. And this implies that the square root of n is bigger than or equal to 2.575 times 7.5. And now we can square both sides, right? To get n must be bigger than or equal to, and if you plug this in the calculator, you would get this to be 372.973. So we should take a sample of at least 373 women, right? So take a sample of 373 women.